Watching tonight, raids in Belgium continuing right now. The capital, Brussels, is on lockdown for the third day in a row. Subways and schools closed as authorities worried about so-called copycat attacks like the ones in Paris. Officials trying to track down the 8th terrorist in those attacks. Belgian police have already arrested nearly 24 suspects over the weekend, but there is still no sign of that one specific terrorist.
And security is tight from coast to coast in American airports, sporting events, and everyday places where large crowds gather just a few days before the Thanksgiving holiday.
In Europe, the highest terror threat ever as officials continue the manhunt for that Paris attacker. ABC's Stephanie Ramos has more from Washington.
American cities on edge.
Makes you question, definitely every loud noise.
In Atlanta, police saying they received information about a threat against this pro wrestling event over the weekend. Nothing happening here, but Americans alert and cautious more than a week after the Paris terror attacks. Even on flights, this Southwest Airlines plane diverted because of suspicions about several passengers.
Terrorist groups are always looking for those targets that are softer, that have lots of people but are difficult to secure.
In New York City, NYPD officers swarming a subway station, guns drawn, during this planned drill simulating an active shooter situation underground.
These exercises are vitally necessary. In New York City, we are at this time very well prepared.
And in Europe, for the third day in a row, Brussels, the capital of a small European nation and home to NATO, put on the highest terror warning. Police on the lookout, the subway suspended, cinemas and schools closed. Amidst this lockdown, the manhunt growing for escaped Paris killer Salah Abdeslam. Back in Paris, after meeting with French President Francois Hollande, British Prime Minister David Cameron says he will seek Parliament's approval for Britain to join U.S.-led airstrikes against Islamic State extremists in Syria.
I firmly support the action that President Hollande has taken to strike ISIL in Syria.
The two leaders agreeing to step up counter-terrorism efforts.
It is clear that the world is coming together to tackle this evil terrorist threat.
Later this week, French President Francois Hollande will travel here to Washington, D.C. to try and bridge President Obama and Russia's President Vladimir Putin against ISIS. Stephanie Ramos, ABC News, Washington.